So the first lightning talk of this morning's session is Mirjam Kuhne from RIPE NCC, and she's going to present on RIPE Labs. It's going to go. Come on.
Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, I'm Mirjam Kuhne. It was a very spontaneous decision, so I hope I won't forget to mention anything. RIPE Labs is a new initiative of the RIPE NCC, and most of you will know the RIPE NCC is kind of the IP registry for Europe. But maybe to, oops, that's the wrong button. I'm not used to PCs anymore. Whoa.
Uh-oh. Well, keep talking for the moment.
Keep talking. Okay. Yeah, you can read the slides later. Well, actually, what might be interesting is that, well, there was first RIPE, and RIPE is kind of the equivalent of NANOC, and only later the RIPE NCC started literally as a coordination center for the RIPE community. So it really was a platform to provide services to the community. And initially, the NCC hosted mailing lists, organized meetings, started a connectivity or contact database, which then later turned out to be Whois, the RIPE Whois database. And then only later, the NCC also became the RIR for the region. Yeah, thanks. Perfect. So RIPE Labs is, in a way, a bit a way back to the roots of that. So to provide a community tool and community platform for not just for the RIPE community, but also to the broader operators community, and that's why I'm here. So which button do I press so that doesn't happen again? Okay. All right. So it's first and foremost a website. You can go to labs.ripe.net, and but it's more importantly a platform or a tool and for the community. And you can look at the content, test what's on there. There are tools, prototypes, some articles, and you can also leave your comments and kind of forums that you can participate in. And why did we do this? I mean, initially, there are two sides to this. The RIPE NCC will use the RIPE Labs platform to have a bit of a faster feedback mechanism with their membership and with the broader community. Whereas in the past few years, the NCC was always very careful to only publish full fleshed out services, which sometimes took a little longer, and also in the end, maybe we didn't really know if the community in the end wanted what we thought, if we had assumed they wanted. So this is a way to get more feedback and to have a faster feedback loop with the community. So the NCC will put up prototypes, new ideas you might have, new features of existing services or, potential new services, and then see what the community likes, what the membership likes, and then either go off and develop it further or maybe take it off again if people don't like it. But on the other hand, it's also an open platform for everybody, like all of you. And for instance, a lot of the presentations I've been seeing here, I thought this would be perfect, research results, prototypes, tools that might be interesting for others in the community. So they would be perfect examples to put on RIPE Labs and then, make it known to a wider community, also outside the nano community. And then you can also, get feedback from others, get feedback from colleagues about the tools or about the ideas you might have. Share your results, your research results with others. That's pretty much what I just said. Get involved in developments from the start and then influence also some ideas and services that are presented there. And get feedback on stuff that you're working on. So that's the URL. There's like a screenshot. We put that in. Actually, we just launched this thing like last week during the RIPE meeting in Lisbon, and we weren't sure if it would survive, like the whole RIPE community jump on it, but it did, so it should work today or two. There are a couple of rules, like RIPE Labs rules. First of all, it's open to anybody. Anybody can read all the content that's on RIPE Labs. If you want to contribute, you want to participate in the forum, so you want to add, you want to submit articles or content, we would ask you to register. It's very easy. We don't ask a lot of questions, and it's just nicer to have like a conversation or communication between individuals and not anonymously. And then the other rule is we cannot give any service guarantees about anything that's on the RIPE Labs. I mean, we can guarantee that the platform works, but whatever's on there, could either be put on there by third parties, or as I said, will be prototypes or, better versions. And then based on, I'm sorry. Don't tell me you didn't hear any of this. I'm not going to repeat it all. Okay, thanks. And yeah, so based on feedback or resources, we could take things off or develop it further. So just wanted to make that clear. Just if you look on the site right now, you'll see a couple of things on there that might be interesting to you. There's like a tool that Shane Kerr from the ISC contributed that he presented last week at the RIPE meeting to measure DNS lameness. There is a lot of stuff also that currently at least that the NCC science group developed that's based on a lot of data that the RIRs have, IP address data in error data, IS numbers. That's called the INRDB. You might have heard of that. And there's some eye candy, some movies that we did based on address usage and some other tools and articles you will find there. I think that's it. There are some pointers here. Please take a look, participate. If you have questions, comments, send them to me or leave a comment on the site. They'll end up in my mailbox anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. Thank you.
Thanks, Mirjam.
Hi, I'm Kathy Aronson. I just want to say I was at the ISP security BOF last night, and it seems like there might be a way they might be able to use your site to coordinate the dissemination of information about some of the stuff they were talking about in the BOF. So
who shall I talk to?
I don't remember who was in charge of the BOF.
Okay, I'll find out. Thanks for pointing it out, David.
Yeah.
Kevin Oberman, please come down. You're the next contestant on the NANOG Lightning Talk show.
Gee, I hope this NANOG Lightning Talk game thing isn't one of those where you want me to jump up and down and wave my arms a lot, because I wave my arms a fair bit, but jumping up and down is just a little too much for me. This is just this is not a tutorial on DNSSEC. 10 minutes is not enough to even get started on that. It's not a explanation of why you want to do DNSSEC in any great detail. Think of it more as a pep talk. That's really what this is. I'm going to take a quick look at some DNSSEC basics, very quick, but mostly I'm going to talk about why you should sign your data sooner rather than later, because in reality, you've got a one-time, never to be repeated freebie opportunity to implement DNSSEC, screw it up, and not ruin your lives. Because once DNSSEC is widely deployed, if you mess up, basically speaking, your systems disappear from the network. And that's probably something that doesn't fit well in your business model. So that's the bottom line here is this is the time to do it. And a little bit of why this is the time. DNSSEC Basics is just saying DNSSEC, it uses public key cryptography, very similar to the sort of technology used in SSH. However, one thing to make very clear, a lot of people keep asking about certificates for DNSSEC. DNSSEC does not use X509 certificates in any way, shape, or form. It uses an anchored trust system. So don't go out looking for where to get a cert. You're not going to find any. Trust is designed to start at the root and follow the DNS hierarchy right down to where you are. I'm in ES.net, so the root has the appropriate keys to confirm .net's identity. .net has the appropriate keys to confirm ES's identity, and so from that mechanism they can validate that anything in ES.net came from me and was not forged. This is the perfect time to test an experiment, as you're pretty much free to mess up. You can still make your life miserable if you really work at it, but it's a lot harder right now. Once you've published your keys and people are generally doing validation, you really don't want to mess up because you're gone. People who do queries on your name will get an error back. It's basically serve fail. They can't find you. They're not going to get to you. So if you wait too long and people start turning on validation in large numbers, your life will get a lot worse. Simply signing your data has no real external impact. You've got signed data out there. People do queries with a request for DNSSEC information. They'll get all your signature files, but nobody's going to do validation because nobody has any keys, nobody has any trust. There's nothing to validate. They're just simply a bunch of extra DNS records that nobody ever sees. Once again, this one is pretty much a freebie. You can do that anytime. Once you publish keys, it does have an impact. Things are getting closer. I'm actually ahead of things by a couple of months here on my scheduling here. This talk was originally something I'd intended to do next year, and I just realized I never fixed it. Root should be signed next year, not this year. I wish it would be signed this year. That would be really nice, but it's going to happen next year. Org and Gov are signed today, right now, up running with signatures. Maybe everything's not usable quite yet, but there's really signatures out there. Com, Net, and Edu should be signed year after next. Once again, I got this little 1 year oopsie in there. Already, there are quite a few country code TLDs that are signed. Of course, everybody probably who's looked at DNSSEC knows that .SE led the way. They've been signing for a very long time and have lots of experience with it. And oddly, only once has Sweden disappeared from the world, and that was because they left a dot out of a configuration file. It really wasn't a DNSSEC issue. So there were a lot of posts I saw saying, oops, this was a DNSSEC problem, it's evil, it's going to break everything. No, it wasn't DNSSEC. It was a much more mundane and very unfortunate typo in a configuration file, or at least so it has been reported by the people who were involved. Registration issues, admittedly, are still being worked on. Transferring your domain from one registrar to another still may have some rough spots. That has nothing to do with you signing data. It doesn't really have anything to do with you publishing your keys, but it does have a lot to do with down the road when you decide to switch from registrar A to registrar B. There are some issues here, particularly right now the way the mechanism is set up. The unhappy losing registrar could really do some things to do damage to you if they wanted to. I would hope none of them would do that, but there are an awful lot of registrars out there, and there are some of them that I don't feel real warm and fuzzy about. So, yeah, they could decide, well, I'm going to screw these guys up for taking their business elsewhere. Once again, until you publish your keys, though, it doesn't hurt anything. Until your parent is ready, develop your signing policies and procedures. Test, and test some more. You really want this to work once you put it out there. Once people are validating across the board, you can't have a mess up without a major impact. So do more testing. The next question is, well, this one isn't a question for today, but once your parent zone, unless you're in .gov or .org, is signed, this is something you can't do quite yet, but find out as soon as you can how the initial keys will be transferred to the parent. There needs to be some trust relationship. There needs to be some mechanism. They need to make sure you are really bigbank.com and not bigbankthief.com, just claiming to be big bank. If you're brave, you can test validation. There are very few people doing validation. I would recommend you do it with an internal server. That way, because if something breaks, it can hurt you, and that all of a sudden your users won't be able to find information in zones that are signed improperly. And initially, there will be a lot of people doing things that aren't quite right. So validation is a little scary. On the other hand, the place where I work, which is Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratories, is currently doing validation and has had very few problems. There were some glitches when .gov was first signed. Those have all been resolved, and things are running very smoothly so far. Nonetheless, validation is a little bit risky, but only for your own people. It doesn't affect your visibility from the outside world. And of course, if you're really ready to go, you can look at providing your public keys to something like an ITAR or the DLV. I'm not going to get into the discussion of DLVs versus ITARs or any of those things. You can read up on it and decide how you want to go. The DLV is probably the simplest to work with. It's much more automated. It works with bind out of the box, not too coincidentally because the DLV was developed by the same folks who developed bind. But once you put the keys out there, then if anybody does validation and you did it wrong, well, you're going to find out the hard way. Main thing to sign is probably your forward zones. Reverse zone signing has some value, but it's not nearly as great a value as signing your forward zones. So you may not want to sign some or all of those, particularly initially. There may be some specific forward zones you'd prefer not to sign as well. Ones that you're not really concerned with somebody masquerading as, but you'd prefer to be really certain they didn't disappear. You'll have to decide those on a case-by-case basis. How to sign? Well, I'm not going to go into detail on that. This was originally going to be a 30-minute talk, so there's some stuff in here you can look at on your own that I'm not going to have time to talk about in gory detail. But you do create two keys, one to sign your data and one to sign your keys. It should be pointed out that signatures expire. There is no expiration date on a key, just like an SSH key. There's no field built into it that says this key is gone after this date. Keys are simply keys. Signatures do expire, however, and if all your keys, all your signatures have expired, nobody has access to your data. So you need to change the keys regularly. That needs to be automated. Make darn sure that you have a very robust system, that you've tested it very thoroughly so things don't break. You also want to roll your keys at short intervals compared to expiration. You need to do this so that you have a little time buffer to fix things when things break. For example, you might sign every 12 hours with a 7-day expiration that gives you an average of 6 days to fix the problem. You might do it every day with, say, a 14-day signature expiration. That gives you 2 weeks to fix the problem. But you need to have the signing occur at a higher interval, a faster interval than your expirations, so that you're a little bit protected. The new keys do require that parents be notified. Because KSKs are used very little, they don't appear on the network, they're generally speaking considered safe. The rules suggest that ZSKs should be rotated monthly and KSKs should be rotated annually. You can write your own software. Bind 9.7 will make the automation of this much simpler, and 9.7 is going into beta very, very soon, I've been assured by the ISC folks. You might want to wait for 9.7, even though I'm urging you to sign. Waiting a couple, 3 weeks until you can run the beta of 9.7 might make your lives much easier. I have some pointers here to assorted tools. There are a number of commercial systems out there. I'm not going to say this one is good, this one is bad. I don't know that all of them are even shipping products. Some of them I know are. We bought one of them, so that's why I know at least one of them is. Make sure that you have more than one person who can handle this. You may get hit by a bus. You don't want, well, your coworkers don't want their network to disappear just because of that. You probably won't care after you've been hit by the bus. So that's the sort of thing you need to look at. I've got some references to read up on things. I imagine you've seen most of these before. I don't think any of them are new. Actually, this isn't my latest set of slides. I don't know what happened to it. I had a couple of extra references on the new set, and I'll see if I can get those shoved up to the web someplace so you can see them. But you've probably seen them before. So that's it. Pep talk over. Just get out there and start working with it if you do DNS, because this is, once again, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Don't pass it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.